Yes, a very good morning, students. I hope you're all keeping well. We started off our fiction, Should Wizard Hit Mommy, yesterday. This Should Wizard Hit Mommy, written by John Updike. This chapter is basically about effective parenting, and moreover, it's also about like how children, can be groomed very well through story sessions. At the same time, this chapter, highlights which we also call as generation gap. So what this generation gap is about? It's about like a difference of attitude towards life. Grown-ups have their own kind of attitude towards life, and that the same attitude towards life is different when it comes to children. So the reason of this difference in attitude towards life is because of the age, is because of the perceptive which one has. The world of children is a bit narrow because it's not beyond family, friends, and their own experiences. But the same experience which the parents have, it's quite wide. Apart from their own, circle of family, friends, they have a wider perception because of the experiences of life. So the life has taught them, the life might have taught them, which children might not have ever even perceived. So this difference of attitude towards life, what parents have and what children have, that becomes a reason of tussle, or that becomes the reason of dispute, or that becomes a reason of generation gap. And that sometimes becomes a reason for parents to become strict. And it is there where, children start keeping a distance with parents, or sometimes, children don't agree with what parents want to point out. It's not that parents are wrong in their opinion. That is never possible, because when parents decide something for their children, it's always for the best or for the benefit of the children. That is for sure. And when it comes to children, when they consider some viewpoint, maybe it is for their own good, but then their perception is a bit narrow. It's not that wide as parents have. But the fact is, like, both of them are right. What children feel to be the to be a fact, that is also not wrong. As per their own viewpoint, as per their own understanding, what they think is right is also right, and you cannot ignore it. And on the other hand, what parents say or what they opine, even that cannot be overlooked. So the title of the story, Should Wizard Hit Mommy, it's in question mark. Should wizard hit mommy? It's a question. So this title itself, conveys uh, that the writer doesn't end the story with his own viewpoint. He leaves it upon us. He leaves it upon readers to decide what we think is right. But of course, in the story, uh, the story itself, tells us the answer. Okay, from the story itself, we ourselves are able to make out like what is right on the part of parents and what's wrong on the part of parents as well. Okay, it's not that parents are 100% right. Parents have their also limitations. So there are some some points in life of parents where you can't say like they are 100% right. But yes, when it comes for the well-being or for the welfare of children, then they are right. Okay. So the story started off, as I told you yesterday, it's a nested narrative. That is, it is an embedded narrative where there is a story within a story. There are two layers of stories. One, on one level, there is a story of Jack and Joe. So Jack is a father, and Joe, whose full name is John, So John is a daughter. So apart from these two characters, who is there? Who else is there in the family of Jack? Jack has his wife Claire in the family, and there is one more boy. You can say a baby, Bob, in the family. So Jack, Bob, Joe, and Claire. So apart from this, Claire is expecting one more baby, right? So, so first layer of the story is Jack and Joe. Jack, this in the story we find him telling his daughter Jack, telling his daughter Joe a uh, story about a character called Roger. Okay, so he tells his daughter a story about Roger. So basically, this father, Jack tells his daughter a story each day. Every day he tells him the story. That's a ritual. So that's actually a bedtime story. And he tells him a story, tells her a story every day and on Saturday and during Saturday naps. So this ritual, this rite of telling story, this custom of telling story to the daughter started when daughter was 2 years old. And now the same girl is 4 year old. And during these 2 years, uh, the girl has grown up mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, and intellectually also. And the exercise or this custom which started about 2 years ago to make the daughter sleep, that exercise has become futile now because these story sessions don't make her sleep anymore. Rather, as the story proceeds towards its climax, the girl becomes all the more attentive and curious. She becomes all the more inquisitive to know like what would happen. Not only this, she rather even participates actively in the story, and and she keeps asking many questions. That is but natural for a child of 4 years, but at the same time she becomes adamant also as to what should happen in the story. And not only this, she even corrects her father in between wherever father would make some mistake. What mistake father might be making, like for example he would deviate from some from the set pattern of the story. So father would tell his daughter, a story which would have a common plot line. It would have a common outline. So what would be the common plot line? Like in the story, there would be a Roger, and the Roger would be any creature. Okay, it could be a chipmunk, it could be a squirrel, it could be a skunk, it could be anything. But every time Roger would have a problem, and with the problem, he would go to the old owl, and the old owl would direct him towards the wizard. Wizard, in lieu of that problem, would ask this Roger to pay him some money, and that Roger would never have money. And wizard would tell him to go to a particular well. He would tell him the location of that well, and Roger would go to that well. From there, he would bring the money and would give it to a wizard. So wizard would solve the problem of Roger. Roger happily would join his friends and would play with them till evening. In the evening, there would be a whistling sound of the train, and that meant that his father has come from Boston. So that meant like he has now to go home. So then Roger would go home and would have dinner with his family. So that was his set plot line. Jack would tell his daughter Joe, right? So today, during this Saturday nap, father decided to tell Joe a story about Roger Skunk. Skunk was the character which this girl told his father to talk about. So, as per the story of Jack, this man, Roger Skunk, it used to smell very bad, and no one would play with him. No friends would come near him. So Joe became empathetic towards this Roger Skunk, and she felt very bad. Like my this character, Roger Skunk, no one plays with him. So she wants that he should be, he should go to the owl and he should be directed towards the to the wizard, and his problem should be sorted out. So as it was happening, like this Roger Skunk goes to the owl, then he goes to the owl, Then he goes to wizard, and wizard tells him to go to the well to bring that money. So children, we were here at this exact expression. Like now this very, Roger skunk has come to the well. He's coming to the well, I guess. We are on page number 52. Yeah. So he paused, a rapt expression widened out from his daughter's nostrils, facing her eyebrows up and her lower lip down in a wide, noiseless grin, an expression in which Jack was startled to recognize his wife feigning pleasure at cocktail parties. And all of a sudden, he whispered. The whole inside of the wizard's house was full of the smell of roses. Roses, Roger Fish cried. And the wizard said, very cranky, that will be 7 pennies. Daddy, what? Roger Skunk? You said Roger Fish? So, in between children, even you people might have noticed, when Jack is telling his daughter the story of Roger Skunk, in between, by mistake, he said Roger Fish cried. So when he started smelling of roses, Roger Fish cried. So Roger Fish is wrong. It should be Roger Skunk. So the girl corrected her father. So that again shows that how attentive she was. So and moreover, then what happens? Roger Skunk, you said Roger Fish. Yes, Skunk. You said Roger Fish. Wasn't that silly? Very silly of your stupid old dad. Where was I? Well, you know about the panels. Say it. Okay, Roger Skunk said. But all I have is 4 pennies. But he began to cry. Joe made the crying face again, but this time without a trace of sincerity. This annoyed Jack. Downstairs, some more furniture rumbled. Claire shouldn't move heavy things. She was 6 months pregnant. It would be their third. So now, children, like this very Roger Skunk. So when he started smelling of roses, he has to pay wizard that money. So he doesn't have that. He doesn't have whole money. He's lacking in 4 pennies. So he asked. So this made him cry. So Joe also made an expression of crying, but this time Joe was not very serious. Her expression was not that of sincerity. And this very moment, Father Jack became a bit annoyed. Why did he become annoyed? Because his daughter was not showing that sincere expression of annoyance or sadness on her face. So at the same time, he was disturbed by the rumbling sound of furniture which was coming from downstairs. Actually, at the time, his wife Claire was whitewashing the furniture downstairs. So she was already 6 months pregnant, and he knew that she should be careful. But she was not, and she was whitewashing the furniture, and that's why there was a little bit of rumbling, a disturbing sound. So the wizard said, oh, very well. Go to the end of the lane and turn around 3 times and look down the magic well. There you will find 3 pennies. So this was the location of the well. So the wizard told the boy, Roger Skunk, the location of the well and asked him to bring the pennies from there. Hurry up. So Roger Skunk went to the end of the lane and turned around 3 times. And there in the magic well were 3 pennies. So he took them back to the wizard and was very happy and ran out into the woods, and all other little animals gathered around him because he smelled so good. And they played tag, baseball, football, basketball, lacrosse, hockey, soccer, and pickup sticks. What's a pickup sticks? It's a game you play with sticks, like the wizard's magic wand, kind of. And they played games and laughed all afternoon. And then it began to get dark, and they all ran home to their mommies. So, children, like after this, Roger Skunk started smelling of roses, after it had paid the wizard of all dues, it joined his friends and played many games, which have been all mentioned here. So, from here, this girl didn't know what is pickup sticks, and she asked his father the meaning, and father told her the meaning that it's a game which you play with sticks, and she even got its like concept clear, like maybe like a magic wand of the wizard. Yeah, maybe. So then afterwards, Roger Skunk played all afternoon. So when it began to dark, they all ran home to their mommies. Jo was starting to fuss with her hands and look out of the window at the crack of the day that showed under the shade. She thought the story was all over. So by this time, Jo, the daughter, uh, she she felt like maybe the story is over, and she started looking out of the window. And Jack didn't like women when they took anything for granted. Underline it. So Jack didn't like women when they took anything for granted. He liked them apprehensive, hanging on his words. So Jack didn't like that women should take anything for granted. So what had this daughter taken for granted? She had thought like maybe the story was over, and she started looking out of the window. So this expression the father did not like, because he always wanted women to be very sincere towards men. Maybe it was a daughter, or maybe it was his wife. So now he asked, "Now, Joe, are you listening?" Yes, because this is very interesting, Roger Skunk's mommy said. "What's that awful smell?" What? And Roger Skunk said, "It's me, mommy. I smell like roses." And she said, "Who made you smell like that?" And he said, "The wizard." And she said, "Well, of course, of all the nerve. You come with me, and we are going right back to that very awful wizard." So the moment this Roger Skunk reaches home, mother is a bit upset when she comes to know that her son was smelling like roses. And she asked Roger Skunk to accompany him to the same wizard. Joe sat up, her hands dabbling in the air with genuine pride. "But Dad," then he said, "about the other little animals run away." Her hands skittered off into the underbrush. Underbrush. "All right," he said, "but Mommy, all the other little animals run away." And she said, "I don't care. You smelled the way a little skunk should have. And I'm going to take you back, right back to that wizard." And she took an umbrella and went back with Roger Skunk and hit that wizard right over the head. So Roger Skunk told his mother, because of his awful smell, all the other creatures used to run away. Mother said that doesn't matter. The main fact is that you should smell like a skunk. So for this, in order to get his smell back, she asked him to accompany him to the wizard, and took an umbrella, went to the wizard's house along with Roger Skunk, and hit that wizard right over his head with umbrella. "No," Joe said, and put her hand out to touch his lips. Yet even in her agitation did not quite dare to stop the source of truth. Inspiration came to her. Then the wizard hit her on the head and did not change that little skunk back. So the moment father said that Roger Skunk's mother hit the wizard right over the head, the same moment, Joe, as if she got some inspiration to speak up, she spoke. Joe spoke. Then wizard hit her on the head and did not change that little skunk back. So did Joe take some time? Did Joe take any time to change to change the narrative, or to say what she was thinking? She did not even take a minute, because she was saying what she believed in. Like, she wanted that Roger Skunk should smell like roses, because it was very important for Roger Skunk to smell like roses, because his friends were not accepting him. So here, if Joe wanted this, she was not wrong. She was empathizing with with this creature, Roger Skunk. What is empathy? When you are able to feel the problems of others. So she was able to feel like how bad Roger Skunk might have been feeling at that time. So she wanted to be in favor of Roger Skunk. So she said, the same minute Wizard hit the mother back and did not change Roger Skunk, right? "No," he said. "Who is he here?" "Father." "No," he said. Jack said. The wizard said, "Okay." And Roger Skunk did not smell of roses anymore. He smelled very bad again. So father again, asserted his story. He said, now the wizard said, "Okay." And the same minute, Roger Skunk started smelling bad. But the other little, oh, John, it's Dad's story. Shall Dad not tell you any more stories? So now father got to realize that his daughter was becoming assertive about the ending. So he reasserted himself by saying, like, "John, if you want your father to tell you the stories, then you should listen to what Papa is telling you." Her broad face looked at him through sifted light, astounded. So the girl was all astounded. She was all, surprised the way the story had ended. This is what happened. Then Roger skunk and his mommy went home and they heard woo, and it was a choo train bringing dad skunk home from Boston. So when they went home, father came back from Boston and they had lima beans, celery liver, mashed potatoes, pie, oh my for the dessert. And when Roger skunk was in bed, mommy skunk came up and hugged him and said he smelled like her little baby skunk again and she loved him very much. And that's the end of the story. So now father Jack ended the story in the same way it used to end earlier with a happy ending, but Roger skunk smelling again like a skunk. But dad, what? Then did the other animals run away? So you can see like the girls, world is not getting beyond friends and family. So it is okay that mother loved Roger skunk, but girl also wanted to make sure like whether his friends also accepted him or not. So then did the other animals run away? Father. No, because eventually they got used to the way he was and did not mind it at all. What's Yvonne Shalandi? In a little while. That was a stupid mommy. It was not. So that was a stupid mommy. Who said this? Who's the speaker? Joe. So Joe now she concluded that was a stupid mommy. It was not. He said with rare emphasis and believed from her expression that she realized he was defending his own mother to her or something as odd. So now father, father, resented. He did not agree with what the girl was saying, and he was able to make out that the girl was able to make out that he was defending his own mother, and that was a fact. So that's why I told you in the very beginning, like here Jack is actually giving an autobiographical touch to the story because he was relating himself with skunk because he also had certain inferiority complexes right from his childhood and because he was also very much attached with his mother. So here in the story, if the girl is saying something like something wrong towards about mother, he's there to defend her. Now I want you to put your big heavy head in the pillow and have a good long nap. He adjusted the shade so not even a crack of day showed and tiptoed to the door. So he told her now to sleep. He asserted her. Now it was not just a simple pampering. He was not ordered her to sleep. He adjusted the shade so not even a crack of day showed and tiptoed to the door. Very silently, without making any noise, he went towards the door in the pretense that she was already asleep. But when he turned, she was crouching on top of the cupboards and staring at him. So no, father made sure like she was asleep, but she was so when he turned around, he saw her sitting on the top of the bed covers and looking at him. Hey, get under the covers and fall fast asleep. Babe, Bobby sleep. She stood up and bounced gingerly on the springs. Dad, what? Tomorrow I want you to tell me the story that wizard took that magic wand and hit the mommy. Her plump arms chopped forcefully right over the head. So girl almost, protested. She rebelled. She almost refused to sleep. And she told her father like she would go to sleep only when he promised that he would tell her the story next day in which the ending would be that wizard hit the mom, right? So she was very forceful. She was very, she was like a rebel almost here. No, that's not the story. The point is that the little skunk loved his mommy more than he loved all other little animals, and she knew what was right. So this is how father now concluded the story. He said, no, that's not the story what you are saying. Because why that's not the story? Because for the girl, for little Roger skunk, friends were not that important. As important were his own parents. Okay. So the point is that the little skunk loved his mommy more than loved other creatures, and she knew what was right. And who is she? Mother. So he said, like, mother also knew what was right for Roger skunk. No, tomorrow you say he hit the mommy. Do it. She kicked her legs up and sat down on the bed with a great heave and complained of springs, as she had done hundreds of times before, except that this time she did not laugh. Say it, Dad. So this time, when girl had become very, very revolutionary. Uh, Earlier also, she used to be adamant like this, but this time she was very serious. She didn't even laugh. So tell your dad, well, we'll see. Now at least have a rest. Stay on the bed. You are a good girl. He closed the door and went downstairs. Claire had spread the newspapers and opened the paint can, and wearing an old shirt of his on top of her maternity smock, was stroking the chair rail with a dipped brush. Above him, footsteps vibrated, and he called, John, shall I come up there and spank you? The footsteps hesitated. So when he came downstairs, he found his wife, doing the whole thing. Like she had already spread the newspapers, and she was whitewashing the chair. She was whitewashing the chair rail. So he scolded her. He almost scolded her, like, "Should I spank you?" That was a long story, Claire said. So Claire, you may say like it was a complaint. You may say like she was like taunting him, or it might be anything. Like Claire said, like, wasn't it a very long story? The poor kid, he answered, and with utter weariness, watched his wife labor. The woodwork, a cage of moldings, and rails and baseboards all around them, was half old tan and half new ivory, and he felt caught in an ugly middle position. And though he was, and though he as well felt his wife's presence in the cage with him, he did not want to speak with her, work with her, touch her, anything. So the wife, pointed out like it was a very long story. You took a lot of time in making her sleep. Yes, it was a long story. The poor kid, he answered, and afterwards he was very tired. And at this time, we feel we get into the mind frame of this Jack. Like he found himself caught in an ugly middle position. He caught himself being caught in a dilemma from where he could neither choose to stay with his wife, nor he could decide to leave her. And it's not that he was only caught in that dilemma. Even his wife was in a similar condition. So they were forced to be with each other, but they didn't want to be with each other, and they couldn't even leave each other. So such were the circumstances. So this is how the story comes to an end. But so this is how like the story comes to an end, where the girl wanted the story and in one particular way, and the father, asserted the ending of the story in his way. And I guess we have got the answer, like why father wanted the story to end that way, because parents know better as to what is good for their children. Okay, but at the same time, even children are not wrong, because as per their age, as per their viewpoint, as per the as much world they have seen, their viewpoint can also not be ignored or overlooked. So if we give them a chance to explore the world, maybe they'll also come with their own viewpoint or opinion, or they'll have their own experience, right? So that's the end of the story. So tomorrow we'll be, going through the questions. We'll be discussing the questions. Till then, it's okay. Yes. If anyone has any doubt, you can ask me first.